we are learning to classify polynomials, identify polynomials, add, subtract, evaluate polynomials. We're just doing all the things. Okay. So first of all, you need to know what a monomial is. A monomial is an expression with a single term and with whole number exponent or exponents, okay? It is a product of a number and a variable. It is a number, or it is just a variable. It can be any of those three things. What it is always is an expression with an expression with a single term, okay? Because the prefix mono means one. All right, so circle each monomial. So I have some examples. Oh wow, I did that animation way too quickly. That is not a monomial. Oh, I remember this lesson. Sorry. Woo! It's been a while. 4 is a monomial. Why? Because it is a number. The purple bullet point. Negative 6x is a monomial because it is the product of a number and a variable. The pink bullet point. Negative 0.5x to the 4th is a monomial. Even though you got a 0.5, you got an x, and you got a 4, it's like 3 things, but they're all touching. So that makes it a monomial. That's still the pink bullet point, okay? X times y, the product of 2 variables, still the pink bullet point. But this x plus y is not a monomial. You wanna know why it's not a monomial? Is because it has it's not the product, it's the sum of 2 variables, not the product, okay? So if they ain't touching, if they ain't real close, it's a no-go. And then you have y to the 0.5, which looks close, but it's not, because the exponent is not a whole number. That first bullet point with whole number exponents. 0.5 don't count, okay? Did I do it? What just happened? I don't even know. Okay, let's talk about degrees. Degrees, baby. So the degree of a monomial, the sum of the exponents of the variables. Oh, hello. That's what the degree of a it's the sum. So that means you're adding the exponents of the variables. So let's say I have negative 0.5 x to the 4th. What is the degree? The degree is 4 because the exponent, I just got one exponent, is a 4. And the sum of 4 and nothing is just, hello, a 4. Okay. X times y. Remember, it is the sum. Come on, somebody. Somebody say sum. The sum of the exponents on each variable. I have 2 variables. And you're like, oh my gosh, but there's no exponents. Yes, every number, every variable has an exponent. When it's not there, it is a 1. So x to the first power times y to the first power. 1 plus 1 equals 2. Okay, let's do 4. It is the sum of the exponents on the variables. Are there any variables next to that 4? Absolutely not. So 0. No variable, no degree. Or we say 0 degrees. Negative 6x. That's gonna be, ooh, excuse me. What's the variable? The variable is the x. What's the exponent on the x? A 1. We're getting a little tricky. Negative 6x cubed y. What's the variables? X, y. What are the exponents on the x? A 3. The exponent on the y is a 1. How many altogether? 4. That's how you find the degree of a monomial. Okay, let's talk about polynomials. So a polynomial is a monomial or the sum of monomials. These are examples of what that might look like. A polynomial is a monomial, so it could be a single term. We just discussed what a monomial is, or it is the sum of monomials, which means a bunch of monomials separated by plus signs or minus signs, okay? So those are all examples of polynomials. Ooh, excuse me. Okay, the degree of a polynomial. So we talked about the degree of a monomial, so a single term, just by itself, right? Now we're going to talk about the degree of a polynomial. So it is the greatest degree of its terms. So out of all of the monomials that make up this polynomial, which one has the highest degree? Okay, so the biggest exponent is a shortcut kind of. So this one's easy. I have 5x cubed, 8x squared plus 3x minus 17. Degree 3 monomial, degree 2 monomial, degree 1 monomial, and a degree 0 monomial. So this polynomial is made up of 4 monomials. I'm only gonna choose the biggest one to categorize the entire set, okay? And obviously, the biggest one is that 3, so I'm gonna categorize this as a degree 3 polynomial. You with me? Okay. Standard form of a polynomial is the greatest degree first, the constant last, or smallest degree last, okay? So this polynomial that we were just looking at is in standard form because I have a cubed, a squared, a linear, and then a constant. The first, when it is in standard form, I call the coefficient, that 5, I call that the leading coefficient. Okay? And then I call it a cubic because the biggest degree categorizes the whole thing. So it's a third degree, so I call that a cubic polynomial of 4 terms. And we'll get into more categorizing here in a little bit. But I have a joke for you. Why do polynomials think they're so smart? Because they got degrees. Oh, there was supposed to be some gifts there. I'm still gonna add them. So how to classify polynomials? You can classify polynomials by terms, so the number of monomials, and then you can classify them by degrees. So let's do degrees first. So let's say I have a degree 0, that's a constant. I have a first degree, that's a linear. I have a second degree, that's a quadratic. I have a third degree, that's a cubic. I have a fourth degree, that's a quartic. Fifth degree, quintic, okay? Those are our fancy names. After that, if you have 6th degree, you just say 6th degree. Nothing fancy, okay? So that's how you categorize a polynomial, by degrees. By degrees, okay? And then you can categorize them by terms. So the number of monomials. So if it has 1 term, I call it a monomial. If it has 2 terms, I call it a binomial. And if I have 3 terms, I call it a trinomial. If it has 4 terms, I just say a polynomial 4 terms. If it has 5 terms, I say polynomial 5 terms. And I move on with my life. So we're going to fill in the table. So how did I set this up? Okay, good. So let's say I have a degree. Actually, no, I just have a 5. And my 5, I need to figure out how many terms it is. It's just 1 term. So I call that a what? A monomial. And what is the degree? Well, there's no exponent. So when there's no, there's no variable. So that means that it's 0. So I call that a constant when it's, oh my gosh, a squirrel. Not in my house. In the window outside my house. Anyway, so let's do, oh, I'm going out of order. My God. So we jumped around. So this one has 3 terms. I have the 2x cubed, the 2x to the 4th, and then the x. That's a trinomial because it has 3 terms. And what is the degree? Remember, the degree is the highest exponent. So we're going to say it's a degree 4, but I'm going to use the fancy term, which is quartic. Let's do the bottom one, 4x minus 6x squared plus x to the 4th plus 10x minus 12. How many terms is it? We have the 4x, the negative 6x squared, the x to the 4th, the 10x, and then you have the negative 12. So that's 5 terms. When it's 5 terms, I just call it a polynomial, okay? The degree, remember the degree is the highest exponent. They're out of order because they're trying to trick you, right? The highest exponent is 4, so I call that a quartic. Let's go to the second one. So I have x plus 4. How many terms is that? I have an x and I have a 4. So that is a 2 terms, but the fancy word for 2 terms is binomial. And then I have the degree. So I only have one variable. The variable is x. What's the imaginary exponent on that x? So 1. But what is the proper term when something only has one term? I mean, one exponent. The exponent is 1. I call that linear. So just moving down to the 4x squared. How many terms is that? Now, this is where some of my students usually get tripped up. You see the 4 and then you see the x squared and you're like, that's 2 terms. No, those are touching. Because remember, it is the product of a number and a variable, and that is the product of 4 and x squared. So that's all one term. The one above it is 2 terms because it's separated by a plus sign. But this one is just 1 term, so that's a monomial. And the highest degree is a 2. I call that a quadratic. All right, let's go through the last one. I have 4 terms. There's no fancy name. I just call that polynomial. The highest exponent, the degree is 5, so I call that quintic. And then I have 3 terms, so that's a trinomial. The highest degree is a 2, so I call that quadratic.